In this lecture, we're going to discuss government and its role in our economy. So what defines a good government? Good government really has three functions. It has to make markets possible, it has to deal with market failures, and to a point it has to redistribute wealth, in a smart way, of course. So let's look at each of these roles of government, each of these functions. First, how do government make markets possible? Government has to set the rules, create laws, policies, certain regulations necessary for markets to exist. Even if you think about simple farmers market, somebody has to devote that piece of land for the market activity. Somebody has to make sure that the rules are followed by all the participants, that people don't get in fights, that people don't fight about places where they sell the goods and services. So in a certain way, government makes this market possible by setting those laws and policies. Government should define and protect property rights. This one is really important. If you own a property, government should guarantee that nobody is going to be able to come and take that property away from you. So this is probably one of the most important functions of the government. It has to make sure that the property rights are protected. Here we also include copyrights and patents, right? We don't want somebody's property be stolen or somebody's invention being used unlawfully by somebody else. Government creates certain institutions such as banks and law firms. So maybe not necessarily create, but at least helps them function. So banks, we need to be able to borrow and lend money. Law firms, we need to be able to resolve some situation in which we're not able to find a solution on our own. Government also create infrastructures, those things such as roads, bridges, ports, and dams. They may be built by private companies yet, but they have to be ordered by the government to be built. So you can see that without roads and bridges, it's going to be very much impossible to function in our economy. Finally, government provides us with justice systems, such as legal system, right? We have to make sure that all those laws are being followed, all those policies and regulations, in fact, people are respecting, observing the rules. So legal system exists also as a part of the government regulation. Second role of the government is that it deals with market failures. We say that sometimes markets fail to work efficiently on their own. And that is possible in the two following examples. When some of the non-market participants are affected by the market, and that's what we call an externality. Or sometimes goods are not profitable to provide, those goods we call public goods, yet they're beneficial to the society overall. So that's when markets are not able to work efficiently on their own. In that case, government can help to restore efficiency. So let's look at the externalities first, and then we're going to discuss public goods. So what is externality? It's an uncompensated impact of one person's actions on the well-being of a bystander. If we had to translate this definition, I would say that if my actions have an effect on the well-being of another person or group of people, then I created externality. If something that I do unintentionally hurts or benefits somebody else, it means I created externality. Externalities can be negative or positive. So let's look at the example of both. Air pollution, construction noise, drinking and driving, smoking, talking during the class. You probably can guess that those things are examples of negative externalities. Air pollution created by a certain factory. You may not necessarily get the good from that factory, yet you are affected by the pollution that's created. Construction noise. Your neighbors may be rebuilding their house. It's really not going to benefit you directly, but you are struggling from the noise that it's creating. Drinking and driving. If somebody gets in the car and hurts themselves, it's not an externality. But if they hurt somebody else, that's when they create externality. Smoking, same way. If somebody smokes and gets cancer, that's not an external effect. That was caused on their own. But if due to the secondhand smoking somebody else get cancer, that's an example of externality. Talking during the class, creating disruptive behavior, right? So if somebody else is learning less because somebody's talking during the class, that's an example of a negative externality. Being vaccinated, research and development, R&D, going to college, all of those are examples of positive externality. Once again, we have to make sure that there's an external positive effect created in this market. How's being vaccinated create externality? Well, first of all, you of course get a vaccination to protect yourself from a certain disease. That's not an externality. But now, since you're not spreading certain disease, you also benefit a society. You also allow somebody else without vaccination not to get sick. So in that case, you created an externality. Some scientists find a cancer cure. They didn't do it to actually cure their own cancer, but that benefited society. That's how we say the research and development benefits creates externalities. Going to college. When you make a higher salary because you went to college, that's not an external effect. But since now you're making better decisions for yourself, better decisions for your kids, better decisions for the society, maybe through voting, that's what we call an external effect, when your education benefited somebody else. That's an example of a positive externality. So be careful about what actually we define as an externality and non-externalities. When someone purposely intends to cause harm or benefit to someone else, it's not an externality. A thief steals something from a person. That was a purpose, an action was a purpose. So that's not an externality. Or when you give into charity or volunteer, even though you're creating something positive, but it's actually a purpose of your actions to help that charity. So that's not an externality. Also, when extra costs are added to the market participant, it's not an externality. Once again, if you crash your car after driving drunk, that's not an externality. Or if a person has to buy an extra gum because they're smoking, that's not an externality. It has to be an effect on somebody else who had nothing to do with your action.